Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program this evening, New York City just detonated the myth that bold ideas can't win. Zohran Mamdani, a 34-year-old Ugandan-born, Queens-raised democratic socialist, will now be mayor with 57% of the vote, crushing Andrew Cuomo's $42 million independent bid while sweeping every borough except Staten Island and pulling 62% in Jewish precincts of Brooklyn. Proof that policy, not identity, drove this landslide. Now, the son of author Mira Nair, Zoran ran his campaign on promises of rent freezes, of universal childcare, and taxing fortunes over $10 million. Donald Trump has branded him a self-professed Jew hater and communist and has threatened to withhold $7 billion in federal aid and has posted, "And so it begins," the moment the race was called and Mamdani won. Now, Zoran Mamdani's first words from the victory stage were a direct shot. "Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, turn the volume up." The larger story is this. This is American democracy working. Black, brown, Jewish, Irish, working, and middle-class New Yorkers crossing every line to demand solutions over slogans. Tomorrow, markets may twitch, pundits will panic, Trump will rage tweet possibly, but in a 57-odd days, a couple of months, Mamdani will take office. Can bold ideas still win in America? And what does this mean for New York? And indeed, what does this mean for Donald Trump?
Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt. If anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this.
This evening on Left, Right and Centre, we've got 3 wonderful guests. Clifford Young is with Ipsos US Public Affairs. Ajay Jain Huturia is a Democrat leader. He was in Biden's fundraiser. And David Sofair, a Republican strategist. David, let me come to you first. From Kampala in Uganda to City Hall, how did a 34-year-old Ugandan immigrant raised in Queens public housing outmaneuver America's political dynasties to become the first Muslim mayor of New York City?
Thank you for having me. Well, first of all, he did run a very good campaign. He ran a grassroots campaign that made a lot of promises to a lot of people in the great state of New York. Now, if those actual promises can come into fruition without completely desecrating the public safety of the most important economy, arguably, in the world, and his taxes, he wants to raise tax in such an aggressive way for the middle class and the working class. And he's dangling these carrots of socialism. So we'll have to see how it unfolds. But, he's a very charismatic young man who's full of energy. And it really resonated and went, it transcended the boroughs of New York, and it transcended race and gender as well. With that being said, Fidel Castro was democratically elected as well. And, he also ran, he was very popular with Democrats at the time as well. So, we'll have to see how this unfolds. There will be a check and balance, in place from a federal standpoint. So there will be some tools in the toolbox there. But when you have such a radical who's openly saying all these radical agendas that really go against public safety, we'll have to see how it unfolds.
Okay. Clifford Young, we'll get to a couple of points that David mentioned, but before that, President Trump's accusation that Mamdani was a self-professed Jew hater appears to have failed spectacularly. He's secured 62%, I'm told, in Brooklyn's Jewish precincts. What does that have to say about, Trump's policies and the fact that, any attempt at divide along, along lines of where you've come from have failed miserably in this election?
Yeah, well, obviously Trump is framing it to his advantage. He wants to spin it. I would read it much more as a message to his base, which right now, the Republican base is in the middle of a civil war over these issues of anti-Semitism, issues of Israel. But more importantly, just to reinforce what the guest already said, this was about real people. I think Mamdani did run a wonderful campaign. He spoke to the issues that people are worried about, that New Yorkers were worried about, and that's affordability. And affordability is an issue in the United States in general. He connected on those issues. They were resident. People, at the end of the day, don't care about the politicking that politicians do or pundits do talk about. They're worried about making ends meet.
Yep.
And the ends meet agenda won yesterday.
Ajay, the fact that, he's got an immigrant background, he's very young, he's Muslim. In today's America, with the Republicans such a dominant voice, does he represent a challenge to the thinking of someone like Donald Trump?
Of course. First of all, Democrats, we are very thrilled to celebrate the victory in New Jersey, the governor, the Virginia, the governor, and Mamdani's win in New York, and many other victories around the country. And Mamdani's win as first Muslim, first Indian American to lead the capital. And as the previous speaker says, winning on the issue of affordability, whether rent freezes, free buses, universal childcare resonate very well with what the community wants. Now they might be terming him as a socialist, as a communist, or whatever that they're terming, but 400,000 strong Indian American community, from Queen taxi drivers to Jackson Heights families, they all are taking pride in him. At the end of his campaign speech yesterday, playing the Dhoom Machale song also gave a chill and bump to the Indian American community. But overall, what would I say? The Democrats are a big tent, and Mamdani being on the far left, and the centrist and the moderates are there. There's some tension out there between the different groups, but overall, it's a strong message to Donald Trump and his policies of tariffs and rising cost, that people are looking for affordability, and the win in Virginia, win in New York, and win in New Jersey all send the sound message, and that leads us to stronger victories coming in 2026.
David, that is my next question. One of the things that Zoran Mamdani said once he won the election, he said that, Donald Trump, you're probably watching this, so turn the volume up. It was, an onstage taunt to Donald Trump, and in a sense, a direct challenge to all sorts of federal threats. For example, Trump has threatened to withhold billions. So there's this element of defiance as well.
You have to understand.
Do you accept, David, that this is a moment for the Democrats, and that what Trump stands for is now being challenged in a more cohesive manner than perhaps ever before since the last elections?
Well, I agree. It definitely is a moment for the Democrats, and it's a sad one for them as well. I mean, what you have with the Democrats is a very fragmented party and there are many factions of it, and there's nobody at the helm. Now, Mamdani represents the Democrats of the few and not the many. The majority of Democrats in America are moderates, and they are not far left people such as Mamdani is. Now, New York is skewing a lot more far left in the recent years. You have to take into account the candidates that he ran against are extremely unpopular. His former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who was disgraced with numerous scandals, so he did not pull well at all. This Mamdani guy is actually a big threat to Indian Americans because they are hardworking, middle-class people that work and pay tax and have come to the States to work hard and to contribute. And, Mamdani is running, like the other Democrats, a narrative of hate. So they hate Donald Trump and they hate free markets.
But David, be fair. How is he running an America of hate when he's come out representing every single community? He's swept through the elections in New York City.
Find out. So I mean,
he was apparently supposed to be anti-Jewish, but he's far from that. I mean, that's not what the Jewish community believes.
He's openly anti a lot of things, and he is running a campaign of Democrat hate, of Republican hate, which they're very open about it, that they hate Trump, and they hate a lot of the.
Well, Trump doesn't love him either.
Sure,
I think political hate is what.
So at the end of the day, there's no one at the helm of the Democrat Party at the moment, and they are running a campaign after campaign on hate and on Republican hate and on GOP hate. And this is a party that doesn't stand for anything. Now, Mamdani is an exception because he had a plan, and he's saying that there's going to be a new beginning.
Okay, David, hold on a second. Ajay wants to respond to you. Ajay, go ahead. All right, David, hold on. Ajay, go ahead.
Yeah, this campaign was absolutely about policy. This campaign was absolutely about affordability, about the rising cost, and how the everyday New Yorker struggling from a taxi driver to a family or a small business owner, how can they deal with it? And policies of Mamdani, policies of Democratic Party resonated with people, and that's what they voted for. Now, 400,000 proud Indian Americans have voted for Mamdani. Of course, there might be some issues which they have to sort it out, which they will continue to do so. But 50% of the voters across the New York in different diverse communities have voted for Mamdani and his policies. And people in New York, New Jersey have voted for democratic policy of affordability, of the rising cost. Tariffs are increasing the cost. The groceries are more than 30% more expensive. Healthcare, 40 million people are losing healthcare because of Trump's policies. And then the rents are increasing. And so all this is what is happening is the day-to-day, the middle class, the lower middle class is struggling. And that's what this election is about. Democrats have always been about the working class, and that's what they've been fighting for. And it's not about hating Trump or hating Republican Party or anything, but it's about the people. And this election was for the people, by the people, and the win across different the states shows that the people are fed up with the Trump and his policies.
Okay, hold on to that. Clifford wants to come in. Clifford, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think we should over-nationalize these elections. They were about real things that affect real people. It's about affordability. Obviously, the Democrats did well, but I wouldn't over-rotate on that. They have done well over the last little bit on off-cycle elections. But what are some of the big takeaways, right? What might it mean? Well, affordability is the issue. Donald Trump actually won on that in 2024. It waned a bit, but with tariffs rearing their ugly head, and they're coming back around, this is a critical worry among Americans in general, and it's nipped Trump's approval ratings by a point or two, so that's a real issue. I think the second point, and this is the point alluded to by both guests, the Republicans have had a very effective message regarding the belief that the system is broken. A widespread supermajority of Americans believe the system is broken. Republicans have been very good at framing it in terms of immigration and cultural issues. I think Mamdani is a signal as to how the Democrats can frame the issue, much more in terms of affordability, in terms of working class, in terms of that sort of economic inequality. And the last point about this election, and just to the elections in general yesterday, Republicans don't do as well when Trump is not on the ballot.
Yeah.
And that's something to reflect on, I think, for Republicans. Trump is a phenomenon. He is electorally differentiated relative to everyone else in America today. And that's something that the Republicans looking forward will have to contend with when looking at chief executive positions, whether at the local, state, or national levels.
Clifford, one of his election calls was a city for immigrants, by immigrants. He's spoken on the entire immigrant background of New York, the fact that it's such an essential part of New York's identity. But that assertion comes at a time when there's been a national crackdown on immigrants. There have been so many questions in America on migrant rights. So does, in a sense, somebody who wins a major election, talking about a city for immigrants, by immigrants, which happens to be New York City, again really sort of challenge the Trump narrative?
Yes, it's a direct challenge. And indeed, we have to understand in America today that there are two differentiated understandings of what being an American really is. Republicans have much more of a restrictive view. You probably should be born in the U.S. and have certain sort of characteristics. Democrats have a much more diffuse view. And that's this central narrative, the central fulcrum point of our political conflict today. And Mamdani's inclusive view is the view of the Democratic Party. It's not necessarily what rallies them. They are rallied on other issues. But ultimately, he does represent that very important thread, or one of the important threads in America today.
David, how would you respond to that? Another point that he's Muslim. Again, in America today, that winning a major election, that would be fairly rare. And
so,
secondly, this entire...
So in our party, we don't play identity politics. So we don't look at religion or gender or orientation or any of that. So I'm not going to comment on any of that. But what I am going to comment on is socialism is not the answer to any of these questions or concerns. Socialism that he's proposing is not the hedge for inflation or tariffs or immigration. I mean, it's been tried in democracies such as your own country, and it was rejected there. So it's certainly not going to win over in New York, and especially for a long time. So this is alarming. Also, he's taken away public safety, and taxes are going to be higher for the middle class and the working class. And when it comes to the very wealthy, well, they're transitory, so there won't be any of them left. So they're going to leave.
So we'll see how that plays out.
So
I take all of the points.
Unfortunate thing, and it's important not to conflate Mamdani to the rest of the Democrat Party, because he is.
You made that point. I get that.
Fringes of that party, so it's not an accurate representation.
I get that point. I just wanted to quickly, take that back to Ajay. Ajay, what is this election essentially about? Is it about, a democratic revival in a sense? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the people rejected Trumpism at the ballot box. Virginia flipped, the governor mentioned, by 15 points, New Jersey by 13 points, and New York City delivered by 9 to 10 points to a proud democratic socialist. And now voters punished chaos, shutdowns, culture war attacks, identity attacks. I mean, I disagree with the previous speaker. There has been a strong identity attacks. Even on the Vice President, J.D. Vance's wife, Usha Vance, has been attacked by MAGA for being a brown and Indian American. Vivek Ramaswamy, who is a Republican, was attacked by his own base to being an Indian Hindu origin. I mean, so this election was about bold working class ideas, and were from all the different states what we have been winning. And this has been about supporting the diversity and the immigrants. Immigrants make up this nation, and Trump has been rejecting immigrants. Trump has been punishing immigrants, whether there's been all kinds of, the raids against the illegals to legal immigrants who are citizens, who are green card holders. They have been deported and things. So this is a strong message that the nation was built by immigrants, and we continue to support the immigrants. And people may not agree. I also may not agree with Zoran Mamdani's every socialist ideas and values and things. But at the end of the day, he has won, and
that's right, and he has won. He has won the election. Out of time, I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us.